In this video, we have got a 100 plus kill game on Siege of Cairo Conquest with the AK-205 Carbine. As always, stick around in this video. In just a moment's time, I'll flash up the customizations which I'm using on this gun in this game and why I think they are the best attachments at the moment which you can use on this gun. We'll go into the pros and cons of the gun, and finally, of course, what I'm doing in this game in particular to be able to, get as many kills as I am and do as well as I am on Siege of Cairo. So, without further ado, let's get straight into the attachments, what I'm using and why I think is best. The first attachment, as you can see, is going to be this red dot sight here of 1.5 times zoom. You've got the soft point ammunition rounds, the 40 round mag, the folding vertical foregrip, the 314mm standard rifle barrel, and the CQB suppressor. So the first attachment is going to be the sight, of which we had that red dot sight of 1.5 times zoom. Now, I'm not a massive fan of all of the sights on this gun. I normally or traditionally always like to go with iron sights where possible. It is a clean iron sight, but this gun is so low damage that at close range, with the lowest zoom possible with an iron sight, you end up losing a lot of gunfights. So it's best to try and build this gun for medium range, and therefore this red dot sight at 1.5 times zoom. Of course, I'm on a low FOV, so 1.5 times zoom is more than enough for me, but maybe you'll want to go up to a 2 times or even a 3 times. But this red dot sight works out the best for me. I'm not a massive fan of it because the red dot is slightly too big, so at those longer ranges it can block the target a bit and make you miss a few bullets. But as we've seen so far, on these very close range maps, that isn't really an issue. So at the moment, this is the best red dot sight which I would suggest to use on this gun. Next, we have the soft point ammo rounds, which is going to increase the headshot damage multiplier from the normal standard amount of 1.35 times up to 1.7 times. This is going to massively make faster your time to kill, and if you don't have it, you'll find yourself in a lot of gunfights, even if you're shooting first, dying if the enemy does aim in first, or even luckily lands a headshot when they're using this attachment. I feel like this is an essential attachment. You've always got to go for the most expensive one you possibly can, which is going to increase that headshot damage multiplier as much as you possibly can. Next, we have the magazine, of which I've got the 40 round magazine, 41 of course if you include the additional chambered round, but I think this increase of 10 rounds from the standard 30 is essential because it's a very low damage gun. Coming in with only 20 damage per bullet, that's of course at the closest range possible before any damage drop off happens. You will find that you are struggling in a lot of gunfights to get kills or even to finish off multiple enemies per magazine because it just takes too many bullets to get a kill. So absolutely, where possible and on pretty much any gun in Battlefield 6, go for the most expensive and largest magazine size you possibly can because it will increase your kill potential per magazine. Next, we have the folding vertical grip coming in at a cost of 10 points. Now, generally, I'd always say to go for the most expensive vertical grip that you can, which is going to massively increase, as much as possible, your main key stats of control and precision. Of course, with the randomness of the recoil and the bloom, you want to minimize this as much as possible and therefore increase your accuracy as much as possible. ADS times in Battlefield 6 are not very slow at all, even if you don't have any grip attachment on, and so therefore an angled grip isn't really, in my opinion, going to provide as much benefit as having a vertical grip and increasing your accuracy as much as possible, which again, with increased accuracy, you're going to be able to land more shots and therefore get killed faster. I think it's also very important to mention that I've only gone for the grip with a cost of 10 rather than some of the more expensive grips you could go for, because this gun so far in Battlefield 6 is one with the lowest amount of recoil, pretty much almost no recoil, which I've used. So simply going for the one that only costs 10 points still allows you to get a nice big boost in those key stats of control and precision which you're going to want and need, but also allows you to save a lot of points to use on the other key attachments, which actually makes this gun usable. For the final two attachments, you have the standard rifle barrel which comes with this gun, which is the one with the fastest bullet velocity. As I've always said, go for the rifle barrels which increase the bullet velocity as much as possible. This increases your ability at long range. Bullets obviously fly faster, they hit the target faster, and this therefore means you have a faster time to kill. So a no-brainer really when it comes to the rifle barrels. And finally, we have the suppressor, another attachment which I think is the best attachment in Battlefield 6 at the moment. You don't want your red dot appearing on the minimap when you're firing unsuppressed. Otherwise, while you're in the middle of a gunfight, or certainly within 5 seconds of you going loud, you will have a swarm of enemies on your position, or if you're on a flank, all the enemies turning around because everybody is now watching the minimap, kind of liking Call of Duty. So, absolutely essential to have the suppressor, and you get 3 key benefits of it. Obviously having a lowered audio of the bullets, so it's harder for enemies to detect which direction it's coming from. Secondly, they don't get a directional indicator, the red directional indicator when they get shot, which allows you to be able to hit more bullets on target before they actually identify where you're shooting from to turn and start to get into a gunfight with you. And finally, as I said, you don't have a red dot appearing on the minimap, which can actually allow you to go on really long streaks, and is the main key attachment which I would say has allowed me to stay alive the longest. And that's something that is very important in this game, which has very close maps, and is more like Call of Duty in terms of its life cycle, where you're respawning, quickly getting as many kills as you can while being swarmed, dying, and then of course rinsing and repeating. Okay, so moving on now very briefly to the pros and cons of the gun, as well as my general feeling of how the gun performs. Now, this is a gun that really frustrated me when I first started using it, because I saw the carbine weapons as something you could run around, run and gun with and be aggressive with, and I didn't really account for the low damage of the gun. I would pretty much lose, 70-80% of gunfights that I was going into within close range, and I therefore quickly learned that the best way, and probably the only way to use this gun, is at medium range. At long range, you get too much damage drop off, and you're going to get outgunned by other guns, even if they have a worse accuracy. So this gun really is a medium range use only, which can be quite tricky on a lot of these very close range maps which we've had so far. But as you can see in this video, I have managed to make it work. So, of course, the cons of the gun is going to be its very low damage, which makes it very tough to use at close range and also at long range, regardless of having a very low recoil and therefore a high accuracy. So that is going to be 2 of the main pros of the gun, as I've mentioned already, the low recoil and therefore a high accuracy. You can't really complain about a reload time below 2.5 seconds when you've got the largest magazine size option available on the gun with 40 round mag. So again, that's probably another positive, and that's probably about it. Of course, maybe one other con could be considered, that you can only, with this current setup, with these best attachments, you can only get the foregrip of a cost of 10, so there are better foregrips you could go for, but because the gun is so low recoil, I don't think you'd really notice too much of a difference. So this build, I believe, is the best build for the gun at the moment, and of course we'll have to wait and see if there are additional attachments, which I'm sure there will be, unlocked for the guns when it comes out, in which case we can reassess it and try and go for another 100 bomb and do another analysis video. Okay, so there's about 5 minutes left of the video, and I'd like to give a few minutes back to you guys to be able to watch without me rambling over the entirety of the video, but hopefully these types of videos with me commentating throughout is something, different to the people who are just uploading full, no commentary gameplays. So please smash a like for me if it has been entertaining or anything has been of use. So, as I said at the start of the video, the final thing to talk about is what I'm doing in particular on Siege of Cairo to be able to find the most amount of enemies, and therefore either to of course contribute to the team by getting high kills, or to therefore be able to get a high score and help the team that way to win the game. So the first main thing, of course, as you will see, is basically to stick around the center of the map where C flag is. You have a main street which goes straight through the center of the map with 2-story buildings on either side. If you stick in those 2-story buildings, you've got a good view of the largest, most open area on the map, which for this gun, which is best at medium range, is therefore absolutely perfect. You've consistently got good cover inside the buildings, as well as can shoot any enemy who is exposed out in the open. So, and it's also going to be the area of the map, the center of this map, the area with the largest amount of footfall of players, whether that's teammates or enemies. And finally, the one other thing you might see me do, and you will have seen me do if you've watched my other 100 kill game videos on Siege of Cairo with the M4A1 Carbine and the M433 assault rifle, That is, if I get the chance to push past the enemy line, past the center of the map, and in towards their spawn, sitting in between C flag and their spawn flags, which in this case is going to be A and B, you can actually go on really long streaks, because a lot of the enemies are going to spawn on A and B and instantly start charging towards the center of the map, sprinting, which allows you to catch them off guard, but also just completely unaware that you might be there in or around their spawn flags, which is going to pretty much be this next 2-minute clip here. Just me running or dashing in and out onto the flag and pretty much attracting enemies to spawn there. Of course, when the announcer announces to the enemy team that they're losing their spawn flag of A, that's going to get the enemies to spawn nearby, pull them away from the center of the map for my team to be able to have more control over the center of the map. And I'm luckily going to do a good job here to take out loads of enemies over the next 2 minutes and stay alive, pretty much distracting the enemies from the center of the map and, of course, preventing them from pushing to the center of the map, which will allow my team then to push onto these flags together with me once they've got control over the center of the map. So hopefully you can see how pushing beyond and going for kills in this case is actually really helping the team, rather than me just being sat on a flag, which any low-level enemy is able to do and pretty much not contribute that way. But yeah, that's pretty much been the video. There's 2 minutes left, which I'll let you guys watch. Please smash a like for me if you've watched this far, and I'll see you on the next video.